Hello and welcome to the ultimate foundation wear test. I'm going to try and keep this intro short and sweet. So basically I have combination skin. I have an oily T-zone and I have some dry patches just randomly, like around my nose, on my spots because of drying lotion. And so I have two issues. Usually I get really oily around my T-zone, so my foundation tends to like melt off and get really patchy around here, and it's gross. And also I do get foundation that tends to stick to dry patches. So those are two issues I have. And I've heard about like a lot of hacks online to help keep your makeup on, because I feel like that is my biggest problem, like keeping my makeup on or on my T-zone. It always just like slides off. It looks gross by the end of the day. So I wanted to try them out and do like a wear test and see which one is best. And I also wanted them to work for dry skin, of course, because I do have some dry skin on my face. So if I just use like a foundation that's just geared towards oily skin, it tends to exaggerate my dry patches and then I just look like a reptile. Was that English? And then I just look like a reptile. So I wanted to find something that would work for both dry and oily skin, but I guess predominantly oily skin. So some of these I didn't like because it didn't work for my dry skin, but if you're just oily then that'd be great for you. So yeah, I have 3 hacks that I tested and then did a wear test. If you're interested in seeing the results, then please keep watching.
These neon lights shine, light up the streets. I know I'm not alone. I'm not alone. There ain't no shadows, 'cause all the lights they glow down every road. Down every road. Chill me up, spit me out. I'm going big, won't bring me down. New York City, can't stop dreaming. Don't wake me up. Stop dreaming, don't wake me up. Can't stop dreaming, don't wake me up. Can't stop dreaming, don't wake me up. I'm far away from where I came from now. I found my way. A brand new city, I feel it through my veins. One day this is gonna fade, this is gonna fade, this is gonna fade. One day this is gonna fade away. But right now all I feel is wide awake, wide awake. Right now I'm awake, wide awake.
Okay, so it's been like a full day of wear. It's about 5 o'clock now. It's about 5 o'clock now, and I first put the makeup on at 8 o'clock, but then I showed you the timestamp at about 9 when I was leaving my house. So it's been about 8 to 9 hours I've had this on. And as you can see, I am oily around my nose. Usually I do get oily on my T-zone, and then like the rest of my face tends to be normal, and then I have dry skin under here. So I was hoping that this technique of powder, then foundation, then powder would keep me matte here, but it really hasn't. Like I'm still oily there. I would say the only difference it did make is I was like really, really matte. So usually I'm trying to see for the foundation. I don't know where it's gone. Anyway, usually the foundation I use, the Lancome one, it's a bit glowy. When I use a double powder, I was super, super matte. So I'd say this technique's good for that, but it's not really great for controlling oil, as you can see. And as well as that, like the dry skin under my nose is really exaggerated. If you can see that. That is not a good look. And also the powdering before didn't stop the foundation settling into my smile lines, but it usually does because I feel like I have a very exaggerated expression. So I'm like, so this tends to happen. But yeah, the rest of my face looks really good. Very matte, but my T-zone is still oily, so as a technique to keep your makeup on longer, not the best. Oh, I just have some tissue here. This is toilet roll because I am classy. And I'm just gonna use it to blot because I haven't blotted at all today. See what happens. Okay, so yeah, my makeup didn't come off, which I guess that's something else this does. Usually this makeup, when it gets oily, it tends to transfer this foundation, the Lancome one. But with the double powder, it doesn't seem to, like, it doesn't really transfer. So that's awesome. This makes it not transfer proof. But you still do but you do still get oily, so you would need to touch up. But definitely if you have dry skin, it's a no-go. So I guess it's good if you have a problem with keeping the makeup on your face, but you definitely will still get oily. Like, this isn't a miracle solution, you'll still need to touch up. But yeah. I've just noticed as well, like on the cracks of my nose, you know, like the bits where foundation can get stuck in, it looks really, really dry there, which is weird because it's oily, but it's like all the powder is bunched up and it's just like settled in there. So maybe this isn't the best option for dry or oily skin. If you have normal skin, I mean, the rest of my skin looks great, so... Okay, so I'm back for a check-in. I have changed my clothes. Obviously, I've actually got dressed. That was just a jumper. So what was I going to say? Oh, to specify what today's trick is, it's the double setting spray. So I put this on twice, as you would have seen before. And once before, I put my foundation on, and then to set my makeup after I powdered. And currently it is... so annoying that the button's also, like, you know, the fingerprint, and it just opens. Ugh. Well, I mean, that's not really annoying, is it? Fast word problems, but anyway. It is 2:19. So I first put this on, it was, again, 8 o'clock, but I showed you the timestamp, it was about 9. That was when I was, like, about to leave. So, it was 8 till 2. It's been about 6 hours since I put this on my face, and this is how I was looking so far. I'll just get closer. Okay, so from looking at this, I know it's been like 3 hours less than yesterday, but so far I'd say this one's held up a lot better. Like, my foundation definitely is still on everywhere. Like, I felt like yesterday with the powder underneath my foundation, it started to break up around my nose and it looked really patchy. And as well, my face was really matte, which that's not really a problem, but I don't really love matte skin that much. But with this, I feel like I look like I have some life to my skin. Like yesterday, I just felt like it was flat matte. I looked a bit powdery, but I look alive. And it hasn't separated that much around my nose, which is what happened yesterday. It seems to have held up well. It hasn't exaggerated the dry patches. It has crinkled up a little bit, but that usually happens because I tend to, like, I don't play with my nose, but you know, I tend to touch my nose a bit, like sniffles, that time of year. Oh, by the way, pay no attention to, like, on my spots. It can look a bit dry, but that's just because I'm using like some drying lotion there, so this skin is just really dry. But that being said, it still looks really good over there, like it didn't dry out too much. But yeah, not too bad. I feel like it did control my oils. Like I'm not as oily as I usually would be at this point in the day. Like it just looks dewy like the rest of my skin, and maybe that's what happened. Yesterday I was so matte that when this got oily it looked really oily, but today, because the rest of my skin is like dewy-ish, dewy-ish, sounds weird. The rest of my skin is like, has some luminescence to it. It's, even though it might be like a tad oily but nothing too terrible. But today, as I have like a slight luminescence to my skin, even if I have got like a tiny bit oily, it doesn't look terrible. Like I haven't touched up once and I still feel like I could get away with this. So yeah, so far I really like the method of 2 layers of setting spray. I feel like it's kept my makeup on well. It's kept me matte, not like matte like flat matte, like, you know what I mean. It's kept me from getting oily in my T-zone too much, which is where I usually get oily, and it stopped my makeup from breaking up, so I'm pretty happy with that. I will try and do another check-in at 5 like I did yesterday, but I am planning on going to the gym, so I wanted to do one before, just so, because you know when you sweat it really breaks down your makeup, so I didn't think that'd be fair. So I wanted to check in now, just so you can see how it looks. But usually I would say from like 5 to 8 hours, there's usually not too much of a change in my skin. Like I might get a tad bit oilier, but if my makeup hasn't broken up by now, it won't by then. So I may get a bit oilier, but it won't budge, if you know what I mean. Okay, so time for the toilet paper test, because I did this yesterday. So this is how I would usually blot, because I don't have blotting paper. I probably should get some, but this works. Okay, so that's just taken away all the oil, and face looks brand new. Not quite brand new, a little bit worn, but still looks pretty good. Like my makeup's all still on. It hasn't crunched up. All the things I just said, all the good things I just said. The one thing I will say is there was a tiny bit of transfer to the tissue. That usually happens when I use this foundation. It's not transfer proof, but I mean by no means is that a lot of foundation, like, and not a crazy amount came off. That's definitely like a reduction to usual. So yeah, so far I'm really liking this hack. Hopefully I can do another check-in, but if not, this one definitely has my thumbs up. Hello, I'm back. That was weird, sorry. Okay, I don't think I showed the time this morning because I'm stupid, but it was the same time as it usually was. I put this on at 8 o'clock, and then the setting spray was just before I left, so like 9ish, and right now it is 3:10, so it's been about, why does this take me so long? It's been about 7 hours, and this is how the makeup is looking. So as I mentioned earlier, this trick does tend to exaggerate dry patches. So the areas of my face which are dry, which is like where my spots are because I'm using drying lotion, there's some dry skin there, and usually this foundation won't exaggerate that too much. But in this case, like, it looks really dry. Like, this looks like reptile skin. I'm sure you noticed in the close-up this looks really bad. So I'd say this hack sorry, my voice is all over the place. So I would say this hack isn't really a good one for dry skin. It's definitely going to stick to your dry patches and exaggerate them. As for oily skin though, like my T-zone is oily, as I have mentioned many times. It's held up pretty well. Like the oils haven't really come through. I am starting to look glowy there, and I feel like it's more obvious because the concealer made my foundation a bit more matte, but it's not crazy. Like it's not visibly like glossy, it just looks radiant. But yeah, that being said, it has held up pretty well. I have the tissue paper, of course. Okay, so there's a little bit of transfer, but hardly any. So I'd say that this helps your foundation if it's transfer proof. This will help your foundation and make it a bit more transfer proof if it is prone to transferring. And it will keep you more matte, as we have seen. But if you have dry patches, no, don't do it. That being said though, I did use the MAC Prolongwear, which is like quite an intense coverage, and like, what am I trying to say, it's quite like an intense concealer. Like it's formulated to stay on a long time, so, and it is a matte finish, so that probably did affect things. So maybe if you have a drier skin type, you use a more hydrating concealer. But I do like this trick. But yeah, if you have dry skin, the MAC Prolongwear, do not mix it with your foundation. And if you have oily skin, this might be a good hack for you. It has seemed to control my oils. It does seem to have controlled my oils, and also it helped with the transfer. So yeah, okay, so that's the end of this video. I think they all worked pretty well, except for the first one I really didn't like because it really bunched up around my nose and it made the dry skin look gross. And also even the oily skin, like it didn't keep my makeup on, it still like melted off, and you could just tell that it was really powdery. That's the double powder one, if I didn't mention. I would say the other two are really good options. Mixing your foundation with concealer does keep your foundation on longer, and also it does increase the coverage, because obviously concealers by nature are higher coverage, so that's also like a good thing about it. But I would say the downfall of it is it wasn't great for my dry skin. As you saw, like it really stuck to the dry skin, but that could have just been the concealer I used. I did use the Matte Pro Longwear, and that is like a matte longwear, obviously, concealer, so you could switch that up, use a more like hydrating concealer, and that might work better. My favourite hack of them all was definitely the double setting spray. This one really works in my opinion. Like my skin didn't get oily throughout here, like pretty much at all. Like it definitely kept the oils at bay, and it gave my skin like a sort of radiance. Like it still looked like skin, whereas with the other two I felt like I looked a lot matte, like sort of powdery, but nothing too bad. But I don't really love matte foundation, so definitely for me this was the best option. So yeah, I hope this video helped you if you're struggling to keep your foundation on. I'd say definitely give these hacks a try. I think, well, the first one I just wouldn't recommend unless your skin's normal and you have normal skin type and you want to make your skin matte, because that really does mattify your skin. I used a luminous foundation, the Lancome one, and my skin was so matte. So if you want matte skin, then that's a good one. Of course, the setting spray one I would recommend if you have oily skin, especially with this setting spray. Of course, it would matter what setting spray you use, and I used the mattifying setting spray from Cover FX, and this one worked really well. This one has like clay and stuff in it, so it helps keep your oils at bay, and it really did work. And if you just have oily skin and no dry skin, I would recommend the add-in concealer, especially the MAC Pro Longwear. It really it really did keep my makeup on. It just really clung to my dry patches, which I didn't like. And of course, the increased coverage is always a good sign. And if you have dry patches, then maybe use a more hydrating concealer. I might actually try that tomorrow, and I'll leave in the description bar how that goes. What concealer? I might use the Rimmel Wake Me Up concealer. That one tends to be quite hydrating, and I'll leave how that goes down below. So yeah, I hope you found this video useful, and thank you for watching. Bye.